How wonderful! This is working.
but I can hear you, so
Okay.
that's better than nothing. It's better than we had before. So I'll just have to just guess what's going on and stare at myself for a bit. So thanks for coming on.
No worries.
Nice of you to join us.
No worries, mate.
What time is it over there? Are you West Coast now? Because you just seem to move all over America.
I am West Coast at the moment. It's 11 o'clock in the morning here, so coming up to lunchtime.
So how many moves is that this year so far, or in the last
Just,
12
just
months?
well, none this year so far. We got one coming up soon, which hopefully will be for good. So, yes.
Right. So as you know, I wasn't present when you came on the Inquisition. So
No.
a lot of this information will probably be new to me. Obviously, I've been on a couple of your streams, and we did the joint stream with Saint Celestine. So this will be a lot of this information will be new. I have got quite a few questions for you from the chat.
Cool.
From the stories, unfortunately, a lot of them from people you know, so you're not a little bit
They're
sarcastic.
going to be
Uh,
abuse. That's fine. You
There'll
know, that's
be a
fine.
bit of abuse. So I will kick off
Yeah.
because I'm interested in this because I don't know where this name came from. I have
Yeah.
called you this name, but I don't know the origins of it.
Yeah.
So Daz Maul, his first question was, what is it really like being a super mega influencer?
Tosser, yes. Right. Well, Daz, like the whole thing for it with being sort of the super influencer, we started off as like a cuss word, really, as a derogatory comment towards folks that were just purely in the hobby to get likes, follows, and that sort of side of things. So it turned into a bit of a banter thing for us because we were all giving each other abuse for jumping online and just hot general hobbying. But it's good. It's good ribbing. It's not anything nasty. It's just a little bit of fun that we have. And it's just continued on really. And at the end of the day, you're probably more of an influencer than we all are because with your 20,000 followers or whatever. But it was just some fun. And between a few of us, we just have a little bit of banter with it and call each other super influencers and yeah, that's really it. So
To,
nothing
to be
major.
to be fair, I said this on the Peachy stream because we were talking about this. I hate the word influencer
Yeah,
because if I'm influencing you to do anything, then you're completely on the wrong track.
yeah,
I am not a person you should be using as a role model by any
yeah.
stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, no, and that's it. That's the whole thing. Is I got into this just purely because I wanted to share the hobby and encourage people as much as possible to in different ways. Everybody needs to kick up the arse in different ways in this hobby, and whether it's nice and gentle holding their hand, or whether it's a bit more tough love and telling them to get going on it. That's what I was really in the hobby for. So yeah, I enjoy it. It's everybody's got their own little things, but yeah, it's good fun. But I don't like influencer either, really. So I still see it as kind of if someone introduces them to me as an influencer, I'm already thinking, oh God, here we go. So
So we've got a little bit of chat going on. Let's just catch up with that. So, Sup Simon and Simon. Hello, Lord Varus of Nurgle. A up painting. Hello, gentlemen. Can't wait for this. Hello, A up painting. I think he actually did send me a question via DM today. Um,
oh, can't
and
wait for
then
that one.
uh, and then Saint Celestine says, Luke, two super influencers. Yeah, thanks for that. But she did just say you both influenced me to have fun and learn something new. So okay,
There
I'll
you go.
take that.
Yeah.
Will Varus and Ergel, Simon, are you going to be doing Sigmar if you hit 20k? Now, I want to caveat this because this went completely out of control. This went on Reddit and everywhere. I made a bet with Daz originally because Daz is notorious for not painting miniatures. So I made this bet with Daz where I said, look, Daz, if I hit 20,000 followers, I will play, when 4th edition launches, I will play AOS once and I will film myself doing it. However, if I don't, you need to paint a unit. And he upped the ante and he said, I tell you what, if I hit 6,000, I'll paint an entire Death Guard army and take it to a 40k tournament. So that was the bet. And then
Yeah.
all of a sudden, everyone's going, you're going to buy an AOS army and you're going to do this and that. I never ever said any of that. So it sort of went out of control. It ended up on Reddit because of Shane, and it just went a bit mad, really. But I'm going to play a game of AOS for 4th edition. I don't think there's any point in even trying to learn it now, and I am going to film it, but it will be sarcastic, and I will be taking the Mickey out of it, just so everybody knows. Um, so Aop Painting says he's on the tough love end for you. So there we
Yeah.
go. And then JT drop 777. I won't say Sam is an influencer. He's been a friend and a bit of a teacher for me. So there you go.
Cheers,
There is
JT.
there
Nice
is some
stuff.
love for you in the chat. The next question is also from Daz because he asked a 2-for-1, which quite a few people did, to be honest. Why the hate for fantasy minis on round
Oh
bases?
God, I know that boy does not change his tune at all. He's such a lover of Sigma. I've said to him on his stream as well, because he got me in on his little stream thing that he does on Twitch, and I don't hate the models as much as I actually hate the rule set and what they did to Warhammer Fantasy. And if anybody's interested, go back to Saint Celestine's interview with me, you, and Mouse Killer Miniatures to find out really why there is that dislike. I wouldn't say hate. I don't hate it, but there's a dislike and a disinterest from me on that sort of side of AOS. But then again, I've converted some AOS models to Warhammer Fantasy models and stuff like that. So the models themselves some of them are gorgeous, and I will end up painting them up. It's just not one of those game sets that I really want to get involved in and do much work with, really. So that's really it. And he just likes to wind me up, really. So he knows I'm still salty.
When he sent the question, I thought, well, he calls you an influencer, but he streams twice a week on
Yeah.
Twitch and then edits videos for YouTube. And that's why he didn't see that, because he was actually streaming when we did that stream.
Oh, really? There you go.
So there you
So,
go. So who's the influencer now,
yeah.
Darren?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you've got 2 from Ryan now. So they, as soon as I put questions, they were the first. Within minutes, they just jumped straight on it.
My favourite Scottish person.
Your
Yeah.
favourite Scottish person, Ryan, aka Paint Party Scott. What is your What is your favourite product from B&M?
Do you know what? This is the thing that, bless him, Dave, 41st Millennium Dave, he contacted me saying that he was going to go and get me some English sweets in a care package, and he said he was going to B&M, and I thought he meant B&Q, because that's the only store that I knew with two, those three initials. And I said, "What are you doing going to B&Q?" He said, "No, B&M." And B&M wasn't a thing when I was in the UK. So it's a new thing, and so Dave was shocked that I hadn't got a clue what it was, and then he had to explain it to me. So for me, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm still speak with an English accent. I'm American now. I've been here for 15 years, but I have no idea what some of the new stores in the UK are. So it was a gag, and it was of interest to them. So I had to find out what it was. It sounds like it's kind of a mix of like Poundland and Wilco's type thing.
Basically is. I mean, I thought B&M was older than 15 years, to be honest. I mean, it's been around for at least 11, 12 years. Maybe it isn't. Maybe it is only the last...
It might have been up north. It might have been up north and not down south. I don't know. It's like one of those things. But I definitely did not see a B&M store around North London, Watford, and all that sort of those places. So,
I guess it could be quite a northern thing because we like a bargain.
Yeah.
But B&M, yeah, it is like Poundland mixed with Wilco's. It just sells loads, and it just actually sells groceries as well. So I suppose it's got a bit of Tesco in there as well. It sells everything. It's usually a little bit cheaper than supermarkets. I go to B&M quite a lot because you do save a bit of money. So Penjam has joined. All right, you pair of fannies. Love you too, Casey. And then JT says that makes sense why I've been seeing all these memes of B&M tagging Warp. Yeah. There you go. Casey says we've got B&M's down south since you left Warp. So it must be quite. It must have started in the north and then moved its way down.
There you go.
And then another question from Ryan. Is it true you had a girl in every port when you were younger?
Oh, good God Almighty! No, it was a conversation we had about an ex-girlfriend of mine, and that was it really. And then all of a sudden they jumped at it, thinking that I was a proper player. No, I've travelled a bit around the world and had some fun, but no, nothing like that. So yeah, he was just trying to wind me up. So that's all good. But yeah, I think I've probably been like talking of going around the world, I've only experienced the Games Workshop stores in Australia. I've been to one in Spain, and I've been to one in Germany. But and then obviously America. So they're all pretty much. But I you know, like I get around to more of the Warhammer stores than I do anything else.
So is it you must have Warhammer stores in the States, then,
Yeah,
surely?
we got it's weird over here because we've still got a mix of Games Workshop stores and Warhammer stores. So, but they're so far apart, and I
Yeah.
think we've talked about this beforehand. They're so far apart that a lot of the time it's more local hobby stores that you get your product for, and local hobby stores have got 15 to 25% off Games Workshop products. So it's actually better going to a local game store, but you don't get the little coins and you don't get some of the store only stuff. But yeah, it's a mix of Games Workshop and I just see Jim Freak Dennis saying stop bragging. Yeah, no, I know down in South Africa they don't have many stores, but yeah, it's
Well,
still,
we've
I know some
we've
people
got
that would.
two South Africans in chat, so I mean, I need Saint Sampson on the stream, to be honest, because I've had a lot of conversations with them, but I've never had that conversation. I know that hobby stuff is few and far between. Hobby stores are few and far between in South Africa. So if you want to weigh in with the chat and let us know, Casey has said, I don't know if this is directed at both of us, but he just said four, haven't you?
Yeah.
So Casey just comes in straight in.
Thanks,
Well, at least he keeps the
Casey.
chat live.
Yeah, great.
And then Synthwave Painting said, "What's your favourite model to paint?"
Oh, my favorite model to paint so far probably is, I don't know, like my Golden Demon piece for next year that was supposed to be for this year, that's going to be next year. Angron was kind of a good model. It's a big beast of a model. I've got about 100 hours into it at the moment. It's very well done. I like the kind of pose on it. It's not too over the top. That was a good model to paint. I don't know. I've got a ton of old school stuff that I really enjoyed painting, to be fair. Some of the new Tyranid, Norn Emissary, it's a lovely model. It looks really simple, but when you start painting it, there's a hell of a lot of detail on that thing. There's loads. I haven't really got one favourite model that I've painted that I've enjoyed. I've got a lot that I really am excited to paint in the future. I want to do Be'lakor, another big model. I like that model, and then yeah, getting back to some fantasy stuff, I think, and squigs and good sort of characterful models like that. I'm a bit fed up with painting Space Marines, to be honest with you. Space Marines is just very, very boring, but it's always nice to go back to. They're a staple, but yeah, a bit more character. More character, the better for me to paint. But yeah, I haven't really got a single model that I've enjoyed painting, but there's a couple.
Angron is my favourite model from last year by far.
Yeah.
Although I got mine commission painted just
Oh,
because I looked at it. It wasn't so much that it was Ant from Boltstorm Wargaming does his goon paints on Instagram. He does commission painting. He's very, very good. And I think I saw a video from Say Hi Paul when he did the
yeah,
unboxing. And when I realised that the dreads are all coming in separate parts, I've got arthritis in really badly in my left hand and a bit now in my right hand.
yeah,
So I find any kind of fiddly building is just doesn't happen. So I asked him to build it and then said, "Well, while you're there, can you just paint it?" So I
yeah,
knew he'd do a better job than me at the end of the day, and that's my centerpiece model. I would like to have a crack at Angron by
yeah.
myself, but I wanted one to take to games where I could put on the table and everyone would go, "Ooh!" And I knew I know I'm not that good, so I did get commission painted.
Dude, like Duncan Rhodes, his Tooth and Coats Painting Academy's got a really good video on Angron. So if you're worried about it, he's got a very, very good stage by stage breakdown of Angron. But yeah, there's some other really, really good painters out there that have got some nice videos on it. It's been done to death, like Angron. And there was a lot at Golden Demon this year, I hear. So yeah, I'm hoping it calms down a little bit and I get to show one off next year, which would be kind of nice. But it's a gorgeous model. It needs to be sub-assembled to paint.
Yeah,
There's a lot of parts on that model, especially where the wings kind of like come up behind his back. You can't even get in there, so you need to sub-assemble it, get some paint in there before fully putting on the wings and stuff. But yeah, gorgeous model, really good model.
I've got an ornament. chemistry as well, but it's currently on that shelf in a box.
Oh, get that made. It's a really good model, and you can kind of put bits from both the emissary and the other dude on it and make it like a hybrid version, so you can play it as both, and it looks really really good. I like it.
And then Saint Celestine with a similar question: what is your favourite part of painting?
Favorite part of painting? I think the favorite. I've got a worst part of painting and a favorite part of painting. My favorite part of painting is that moment where you've slapped on a load of paint and blocked it in a load of color and started sort of highlighting and shading parts and kind of building up values and all those sort of things, and then you actually see it coming together, and there's that moment about 3/4 of the way through the model, like between half and 3/4 of the way of painting the model, where it just clicks and you go, oh yeah, that's looking pretty cool. um, that moment is worth the kind of stress of the first part of the model, because when you start slapping on color on a model, it's like, oh man, that's not really looking what it's supposed to look like, and you just trust the process all the way through. And there's that click moment of when you look at it and go, oh man, that looks proper rocking. So yeah, that's my favorite part, when the model starts coming together towards the kind of, that over the halfway and you're on the home stretch. My worst part is actually that first part of slapping model color on there, and that nervousness of going, did I pick the right color choice? Have I got the right palette? Did I pick the right combination of triads or whatever you're doing, that first start of the painting. That for me is the most stressful. But yeah, it's there, that old saying, trust the process, is so true, because if you really do go through it and persevere, the more time you spend on a model and the more effort you put into it, the better the models are going to look. And it's just, that's as simple as is, and it is very, very true. So yeah, that's my worst and best parts of painting.
Yeah, all models have an ugly phase where you just look at it and you think, this looks shit. Just this looks terrible. And you
Yeah.
have that second thought, well, so just bin it and start again. Then you go, no, I'll just see it through now. And then you get to the end and it's all worthwhile. But yeah, you do have that ugly phase. Jim Freak 23 says your airbrush is your favourite part of painting.
Oh no, I normally like when I'm on doing some Instagram lives and that sort of side of things, my airbrush can be a little bit loud. And normally I put that on when Dennis jumps onto the string just to annoy him, and because it kind of drowns out any of his comments really in the comment section on the videos, which is wonderful. But no, I love you, Dennis. But yeah, no. So yeah, I do. Airbrushing has been a real challenge. It's been one of those things that I didn't do when I first got into the hobby, and since I've started it and been using it more, it's been a really valuable tool. So, I think that's another thing that I've been trying to convince a lot of people to jump into, is take the jump and start airbrushing, because it's quite daunting for a lot of people to go, oh man, I've got a compressor, I've got cables and tubes, and I've got an airbrush, and I've got all this sort of stuff. I think once you actually get into it and start practicing it, you can achieve some really, really good, clean stuff, especially on larger vehicles and models and stuff like that. It's wonderful and quicker, and you can knock out a lot of stuff quick. So I've been trying to. I think that's my goal really, is to try and convince more people to get into it, to complement their painting. And I wish I'd done it earlier, really.
I've never ever used an airbrush myself. I've never used one. I wouldn't know where to start. I do. You are right. It's quite daunting, especially when you're an old school painter like me. You
Yep.
look at that and you think, oh, I've got to take it apart. I've got to clean it. I've got to get this. I've got to get that. It's got a compressor. It's going to be dead
Yeah.
really noisy. It is really, really daunting. I mean, but you see the effects from an airbrush and you think, oh, that looks really nice, but I don't know if I could do it. So
You
yeah,
can. It's what there's not really that steep of a learning curve. It's really practicing. It's like when you pick up a paintbrush for the first time and you're trying to work out how much paint you should get on the brush itself, not getting it anywhere near the ferrule. You know, the consistency of the paint, all of those sorts of things that we take for granted being old school painters. But you know, that can be very, very daunting for people that are jumping into the hobby as well. And it's the same with airbrush as well. Is getting the consistency of the paint right, so you're not blocking up the airbrush. And once you get used to roughly what the consistency should be, that's just second nature going through the airbrush. And then it's really just control. It's like picking some of the airbrushes that are out now are very, very lightweight. They're about the same size as like a chunky pencil, so they're very, very easy to use. And the technology's coming along super, super well with it. There are companies like Harder and Steenbeck that are pushing the engineering as well on these airbrushes nicely. So that for me is a big thing. But yeah, it really is just convincing people to try it out. And I've been doing classes locally, and I will be doing classes locally when I move as well, to just bringing the airbrush down and letting people just try it out and go, wow, okay, that's not too hard. So you know, it's just getting over that hurdle, taking the jump and getting an airbrush and just practicing, and then you'll never ever very rarely Daz Mole is the only person that I know that got an airbrush and then didn't like it and then stopped and sold it and then went back to painting just purely with brushes. So yeah, it's normally 9 times out of 10 people are going to get it, add it to their arsenal of painting tools and love it. So yeah, well worth it.
so Alanya Miniature Studio X28 Tamiya thinner works really well with Citadel paints. Any
Yeah,
airbrushes out there? There's a good tip for
yeah,
you. I don't know what any of that means.
yeah. Yeah, a lot of the GW paints, even the airbrush range, the Citadel Air range, can be a little bit crazy sometimes through an airbrush. So you have to get just a couple of drops of thinner to add to it when it's in the airbrush to make it flow. But yeah,
And then this question was from Gareth Dante Paints, who is
uh,
currently streaming, so
yeah.
he's in the chat. And this I didn't quite understand this question, but I'm sure it makes sense to you. Horus Heresy Legion other than word bearers? That was his question.
So this is I've been gently getting more and more into the Horus Heresy on the model side of things, and I'm thinking that like I've got word bearers in 40k, so they're kind of like my chaos space marine type thing. If I had to pick, like I've also got ultramarines in 40k as well, so they're my kind of two good and bad marines sort of thing. If I was going to pick a Horus Heresy, I'm actually kind of sliding towards the Emperor's Children at the moment, just because I want to paint a different color than like red with trim or blue with trim. Not a really big fan of the Salamander's fluff. So it's really, I think the purple could be a nice nice paint scheme, and really that's a lot of my armies are based on colors. So I try not to have two different colored armies the same. The only two that I've got is my word bearers and world eaters. They're my only two armies that are similarly colored, that I run with. Everything else is different colors. So I've got a white Tau army. I've got my blue Space Marines from the Ultramarines. I've got a higgledy-piggledy mix of different orc clans. So yeah, I try and pick it more on variation of colours just to keep me a little bit, you know, not from losing my mind painting the same colours over and over again.
Hi, Camarade Krieg. He's just come into the chat and said hi. So, word bearers and world eaters. Does this mean you've read Betrayer?
Yes, love it. And
It's a really good book.
like my like it's kind of crazy. So I like Erebus to the point of which everybody absolutely hates him, and without Erebus, we wouldn't have any of the fluff for the whole of the Horus Heresy, which I love. So you know, if you might hate him, but without him being an absolute douchebag, we wouldn't have any of the story that we have. So you know, at the end of the day, I appreciate him for that, if he ever gets a 40k model, I would absolutely love to add him and drive people nuts by playing
I
him.
think he's just a stereo, he's just a pantomime villain, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's got no redeeming features whatsoever.
No. It's just the pure filth. But then I love Argyle Tao as well. So, you know, like looking at the two good, and Khan, I love Khan. I think he's just misunderstood. Bless him. But yeah, no, I love Khan. I think him, Angron. There's a lot of the characters from the World Eaters that I like, and then there's Argyle Tao from the Word Bearers that I love. But yeah, the vast majority of the word bearers are just like the typical bad guys. So you know they're gonna be just causing chaos. But yeah, I love all of that stuff. So, but again, if I was gonna try and go and go deep into Horus Heresy, I'd probably go Emperor's Children, just because I want to paint some purple marines and have some fun.
Have you read Fulgrim? I haven't read it yet,
Yeah,
but there seems to be mixed opinions. I know people that think it's the best book they've ever read in the Horus Heresy series, and then some people really hate it.
I didn't mind it. I didn't like. I don't see the hate. It's kind of, there's a lot of debauchery in it, and there's some really good moments in it of explaining paintings being used, human excrement on the wall, and all this, and bodily fluids being used, and all that sort of stuff, which was kind of entertaining. And then there's I won't spoil it if you haven't read it, but there's a moment. I'm just going to say the concert is phenomenal, and that was one of the highlights of that book for me, is the concert. So you know that's two really good moments in that book. It's worth reading, because I like, you know, I think Fulgrim's one of those weird characters, evil like characters that are misunderstood and a little bit, but he's also off the rails mentally, and I kind of like that it's goes in that direction. But yeah, definitely worth watching or reading. Sorry.
JT says Fulgrim to me was a good book, but not my fave so far. I'm only 17 books in so far. That's probably about 14 books more than I am. I'm quite late to the party with that sort of stuff. So I got an Audible account recently because Shane gifted me a credit. So I got Angron Slave in this area.
Yeah.
And I sort of went from there. So I've done that. I've done Betrayer. I did a 40k book, which is the Red Angel,
Yep.
which is a really weird book because he's only in it for like 3 or 4
Yep.
lines. He doesn't really speak in it. And then I did Betrayer, and now I'm on Master of Mankind. And I did the first 2, Horus Rising and Small Gods, whatever it is, not Little Gods, False Gods. That's it, False
Yep.
Gods.
So
So you're better than me.
You haven't read The Flight of the Eisenstein yet?
No, when I was in Warren World on Tuesday, I was looking at their Black Library books. I wasn't going to buy an actual book because I haven't got time to read them.
Yeah.
But I was just going through them and reading the appendices at the back and deciding which books I was going to get on Audible next. So there's Praetorians of Dawn I really want to read as well, or listen to, I guess, because I'm a big Imperial Fist fan, a bit like Valrak in that respect. So I really want to read that one. I do want to. Fulgrim's on my list. There's quite a few on my list. I'm not reading them in any kind of order, though. I'm just going by what books I think I'll like.
Yeah, there's a few that, like, as far as that goes, The Flight of the Eisenstein is probably my favourite book out of the Horus Heresy so far. But then I haven't read. There's a few in between that I don't care for. I didn't really care for Legion, and there's a few others that are non sort of like Space Marine that follow other characters in the Horus Heresy. But yeah, you came in late. I got all the Horus Heresy books on Audible for $5.
Yeah, JT just flexing now because I paid $7.99 for mine.
But yeah, there's some good books. But I would recommend Flight of the Eisenstein. I love it. It's a really, really good book, and it kind of ends with Garrow on Dawn's ship, and there's some really good moments with him and Dawn. So you'll probably enjoy the Imperial Fist interaction in that book as well.
Oh, but Betrayer is my favourite so far because like you say, it got me to read. I like Khorne anyway, but it gets you really into the bromance that Khorne and Argyle Tall have got going along. And you start to really like Argentol because even though he's basically possessed by a demon, he comes over as a really decent
Yeah,
guy. He
yeah,
realizes that he realizes that he's on the wrong side of the war, but he also says that there's no right side of the war.
yeah.
And you start to really like him. So, without spoiling it, what happens at the end is devastating.
Oh,
Even
dude,
though I
don't.
knew it was
Yeah.
coming, but I still
Mm.
felt it.
And again, it just honestly makes you hate Erebus even more, and that's just that's really where we're at with it all. And yeah, there's a lot of craziness, but yeah, no, it still doesn't. There's a few characters in the Horus Heresy that I really really love. Sol Tarvitz, I absolutely love. I think he's a great character. Argyle Tal's a great character, and then obviously Garvey Loken. I love Garvey as well. So those three are probably my favourite Horus Heresy characters. Garrow's okay. He's a bit dry, but he's Death Guard, so you can get past that. But there's some good characters in there, and I just don't care for the kind of perpetuals, the kind of that are in some of the books. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. They got to kind of do non-Space Marine type stories, but I prefer a lot more, the Space Marine base books.
Betrayer, I didn't used to like Lorgar, but Betrayer actually got me to like Lorgar a little bit. He comes over as quite sympathetic in Betrayer.
I,
The fact that he wants to save
yeah.
Angron is I mean, he wants to save Angron. He
Yeah,
knows his brother's dying, and it's like okay. And then there's a little bit of a bromance between Angron and Lorgar as well
yeah,
towards the end.
yeah. And well, there was a short story, and I can't remember. It was like Tales for the Heresy or something like that. There was a short story between with Lorgar and Angron about to open up fire on each other's ships, and then I think it was a Dark Eldar fleet attacks them mid warp or something like that, and then they end up having to go and smash the hell out of a load of Dark Eldar on these ships, and they fire the Ursus claws and grab one of the Dark Eldar ships and all this sort of stuff. And there's a really good moment between Lorgar and Angron on that, and they kind of talk about the butcher's nails and Lorgar realizing that his brother's just kind of losing it, and then the Dark Eldar kind of like I'm trying to think whether it was a short story or not, but the Dark Eldar guy goes that they needed to try and stop the Red Angel because and that was the first time he was mentioned as the Red Angel of Khorne, and that they were trying to stop him before he causes craziness. But it was before he transmuted into like his demon form. So it was just pure Angron rage on roids on a ship with Lorgar, and both of them were smashing the hell out of things, and it was really really good. So yeah, I'll have to try and find out what it was and send it over to you.
Yeah, yeah. Do all the World Eater stuff I can get, the better. I'm painting through so many World Eaters at the moment. Listening to their audiobooks does help, get you in the
Yeah.
mood for painting trim. So another question from Wasteland Modeling says why he said why OSL is overrated. I'm assuming that is why is OSL overused? Sorry, not overrated,
Okay.
overused.
Yeah, we were talking about. I know Dave Wasteland Modeling. We had some good chats on one of the streams about OSL, and at the moment there seems to be this real overuse of OSL on a lot of stuff. I like it to complement things on a very modest basis, but I do think it's being well overused now on everything because if you've got a model that's in a cave and it's pitch black, and then you're going to get some good OSL from it. On a normal, beautiful blue sky day, you're not going to get any OSL from it. It'll look bright, but you're not going to get any object source lighting from it. So I think it's being overused a lot at the moment, and I think it becomes easier because you have an airbrush and you can do a lot of the work with an airbrush or inks and those sorts of things. But yeah, it's one of those that I just think that people are overusing it at the moment, and I think if people dialed it back a little bit, then I think it complements things a lot better. And I don't think you see a lot of the OSL work on Golden Demon work that much. You might get a tiny little bit of a reflection or something like that on some stuff, but it's not overly like brighten up the whole model type thing. It's not not needed.
It's not something that I really use. I might occasionally do it on like a plasma weapon or some eye lenses on a Space Marine, but it's not something that I'm not a massive fan of it, to be honest. I think if you do it properly, if you're
Yeah,
very, very good and you can do it properly, it's very effective. If you're not, it just doesn't. It's like non-metallic metal. If you're good
yeah,
at it, it looks amazing. If you're not, it just doesn't pop.
yeah.
It's not a skill that I personally want to learn. I don't, I've said before, I paint mainly to games. So as long as they look good from 3 feet away,
Yeah.
I'm happy. Matt says Butcher's Nails, brilliant story. Ordered because amazing. That's the story I mentioned to you. Yeah, you did. I forgot all about that. I need to put that on my list as well. Have you read Butcher's Nails at all,
I
Sam?
don't know. I honestly, I think I'm gonna probably once I get all settled and I've done the house, maybe go through the Horus Heresy again and read the books again because I love them and they were a great back into to the fluff of 40k for me, knowing everything that happened in 30k. So maybe I do, maybe I reread them, but I can't remember Butcher's now specifically.
Anything, like I say, anything to do with World Eaters. I mean,
Yeah,
anything to do with corn, to be honest. I'm in. JT says, good old Down Under days. I'm taking it Wasteland Middies is from
yeah,
Australia.
yeah,
The land
yeah,
of the
yeah,
upside down.
yeah.
Ash is in the house. Lovely, super amazing influences in the house.
Oh,
Thanks,
there
Ash.
you go.
Love,
See,
love you too. Can't wait to smash the Black Legion in June when we meet at Warhammer World. Um, Baron Paints has asked you a question. What's your favourite old school model?
um. My favorite old school mod, I think I've kind of got two. One of them I don't even know if I'm going to be able to get hold of because it was it was very, very rare at the time. There's a company before Forge World was a thing. There's a company called Epicast over here in the States that made resin large versions of Epic stuff for 40k use from the Epic sculpts. And there
Yeah,
was
they did the Around Time, didn't they?
yeah, and they did the original Warhound Titans. They did a lot of the original Eldar Titans and all that sort of stuff. They did a really really big orc model called a Gargant that was huge. It was like 2.5 foot tall type thing, like bigger than a small child. And it had a big old belly gun, and towers and stuff on its like shoulders and stuff like that. That is one of my favorite old school models because it's just crazy and it looked amazing at the time. But now they're going for like $1,000 or about £800 plus for a dodgy, like copy of it. I think there's some 3D files out there, so I may 3D printing one eventually, but that's one of them. The other one, a gorgeous old model that I love is from Marauder Miniatures from way back in the day, back in the 90s. And they did a High Elf Prince, I think it was, on a dragon that was super, super cool. And I want to try and get hold of that as well. That model's amazing. There's some quirky old models that I really, really love. I like a lot of you remember the old ogres, Simon, that were like,
Yeah, I've got some upstairs.
oh,
I've got
there was
some.
like a ninja one with
Yeah,
throwing stars and a samurai one with a big sword and all those sorts of. I love all of those old because again they have so much character and to paint those models is just super super fun. So I'm going to try and get more of those going forward just because I think they're going to look great. But yeah, I think that's a good three models that I want to try and get hold of and paint up eventually for sure.
that was also back when ogres were buffed before they made them fat.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, they were a bit more working out in the boxing gym rather than just eating pies. Yeah.
Yeah, they just look really hard as nails, and rather than just a little bit fat. Um, Before I ask Matt's question, anyone who wants to see the Gargant that Sam just mentioned, I know for a fact that Gobbo Girl on Instagram has got one. You'll have to go quite far back in her story, in a post, but she has got one. I think she's yet to paint it yet, but someone did gift her one.
What?
So, yes,
What?
someone sent her one.
Seriously, someone needs to give me one of them. Blimey. Oh,
We're just not popular enough. Obviously,
no,
no one's
obviously
gifted
not,
me a
mate.
£1,000 model before.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Matt's just asked, do you think paint brushes or a particular brand of brushes make a difference to your painting? Or the high-end expensive brushes worth it?
That's a good question. To start with, while you're learning, no. I say, like, if you can go to like Walmart or Tesco's and just pick up a pack of different brushes to learn how to use them, the right amount of paint on the brush, washing them out, get into good routines. There's only so far you can go though with cheap brushes, because they start losing their point very, very quickly, and you're not going to get the results that you can from expensive brushes. The way that when I'm asked this question beforehand, I've responded to it in a slightly different way. That try and get the best brushes you can afford at the time. So when you're starting out, this hobby is extremely expensive, but if you can only afford like either cheap paints or cheap brushes, then that's fine. Just get it on there, enjoy the process, enjoy the hobby. The more you get into it, the more you'll want to go, okay, I'm going to save up for a set of brushes. There are some brushes that I've used that I will say are well overpriced, that are not, and I'm not going to drop any names, but there's some companies out there that are totally overpriced. There are other companies that make very, very good brushes that are more middle of the road price, that I use daily, and that will last you years if you look after them properly. And I've got no problem in saying that the company that I generally run with is a company based in England called Rosemary and Co. And they are my go-to for brushes, and have been for probably the last 10, 15 years, and I absolutely love them. They are very, very good quality, and if you look after them and wash them out and give them a good soak, and working with brush soap regularly and all that sort of stuff, they will last you years and years and years as long as you look after them properly. There are other brushes like Raphael that are really, really good. Winsor and Newton are good as well. The Series 7, they are tight brushes, but I think, compared to others, just find what one works for you. Because as I said, Raphael, I've used MIG brushes, MIG ammo. They're okay as well, and yeah, you'll just find the right brush for you. But yeah, not paying extortionate rates isn't going to guarantee you a really, really good brush. You'll just go through it the same. If you look after things, they'll last. And that's why I kind of say it all really does depend on how you look after your brushes and wash them out, and really care for them. So yeah, but yeah, try and get the best brushes you possibly can for the budget that you're working with, and then you will definitely benefit from better brushes going forward. I hope that makes sense.
My favorite brush at the minute, my favorite brush at the minute, are the Army Painter ones, the white handle ones,
Okay.
and a little bit thicker. I mean, they've lasted me over a year, and the tips on them are still fine. And then I've had an artificial brush, which I bought in 2019 from Games Workshop, which is like the fine detail brush,
Yeah.
and that's still going 5 years later. So it is right. So if you take care of your brushes, then they'll take care of you, basically.
Yeah, totally. And yeah, as I said, like if you regularly get into the process of washing them out and giving them a good clean now and then, you'll reap the benefits of it, and you won't end up spending tons on. I hate it when I hear people going through a brush a month, and I'm like, what the heck are you doing to your brushes to go through a brush a month? And yeah, it's just caring for it. It's getting some good brush soap, and regularly using some good cleaning techniques, and you'll be fine.
And then A-Up Painting, who I believe is in chat, says, tell us about the time you spent traveling.
Oh, Christ Almighty! There's a lot of time. I spent. I came out of university at the age of 21, 22, and worked in the UK for a while, maybe about 3, 4 years, and then decided that I did not enjoy working for the same old job. So I decided to start saving up and go travelling around. And started off by traveling Northern Africa. I landed in Israel and worked across Egypt and right the way across to Morocco, over about a month or two, which was kind of interesting. I've done New Zealand, Australia, done Germany, Portugal, Spain, and then I got the bug, and that's one of the reasons why I'm in the States, is the fact that I got the bug to travel, and I was like, okay, do a little bit of traveling across the states. Landed in the East Coast, traveled East Coast to West Coast in America. Loved it, absolutely, really, really loved it. It was super, super fun. Had a bit of spare money and ended up flying out to Hawaii, and that's where I met my wife, really. And you know, that was, God, that was a long time ago. That was like 14 years ago that I met her. And yeah, and you know, we were dating for a bit, and she came back to the UK and was like, "What the hell is this place?" And I'm like, "Yeah, okay." So you know, we ended up coming back to America pretty quick after she'd visited, and then yeah, been here ever since, really. And you know, I may well come back to the UK this year. I might come back for a flying visit. It all depends on the move and how quick we can get the house sorted out in Florida. But if it all goes to plan and I have enough money, we'll come back to the UK, and I'll try and meet up with as many people as possible. I want to try and go up to Warhammer World and try and organise some folks to come up there and meet me and have some fun, maybe do some painting or at least do some shopping while I'm there and fill up some bags to come back to the US with.
Talking of shopping,
Yeah,
um, I'm going to put some plugs in now. I've just been
yeah,
trying to find that right gap, and I
no,
think you just get into. So Warhammer World, as you know, is part of Games Workshop. You will pay full retail there. If you don't want to pay full retail and you are in the Staffordshire area, in the town near a town called Leek, then go to Boltstorm Wargaming. They don't offer a massive discount, but what they don't offer a discount, they make up for in friendly service. And speaking of them, that leads me on to Elements of Power, who sponsor this stream. They are doing a Learn to Play game at Learn to Play Day, sorry, not game, on the 21st of April at Bullstorm Wargaming, and I'll be there, and I will be live streaming there. So even if you can't be there, you can experience the game through me filming it on my dodgy phone.
there you go. Good plugs,
There,
man. I like that.
you got to get the plugs in. So speaking of Warhammer World, though, did you ever get a chance to go before you came over,
Yeah,
or you've
I,
never gone?
I, I went twice. I've been up to Nottingham twice. And my old man took me up there when I was a kid, and then I went when I was late teen, maybe I want to say. Went up there and really enjoyed it. But it was Bugman's was kind of still. I wouldn't say new, but Bugman's wasn't as crazy as it is now by the look of it. The Rhino was there, but they had the Space Marine outside rather than the Age of Sigmar dude.
Yeah,
So that was,
Space Marine's now further back next to the
yeah.
Rhino.
So however many years it was the Space Marine that was outside. Was when I last went. That was there. So and they still have Warhammer Fantasy there when I last went as well. So you know it's at least yeah, it's got to be maybe 15, 20 years ago. So you know it's been a while, but yeah, I do want to go back and see. You know, has it been expanded? You know, recently?
Yeah, I mean, the first time I ever went was actually for a GW interview in 2000. So just not long after they'd opened there. I think they opened Open Warhammer World, moved sites in like the late 90s.
Yeah,
So the first time I went there was 2000, and obviously I went in through the main entrance, the staff entrance. But Bugman's has changed loads because we were in the canteen for a bit in between interview processes. If you watch the Peachy stream, we talked about the GW interview process. It is like mastermind trying to get on that retail team. It's unbelievable. But Bugman's is just across the hall from the staff canteen. So if you're going through Bugman's at the end, anyone who's been, there's a little staff door and two flights of stairs. They're across to the side of the flight of stairs, the canteen. And Bugman's was just basically a pub. It just looked like a normal pub. So that's the first time I went to there. And then our first time I actually went to the like a guest, like to go to the exhibits and stuff was 2018, 2019.
okay.
And it changed loads. I mean, Bugman's just looked like it's the bar. And I went in Bugman's and it's all wood floors. There's a fireplace. There's dwarven weapons on the wall. There's helmets. There's a bookcase full of Black Library novels. It's just, it's. I love Bugman's. And
Yeah.
they do a smashing breakfast as well.
Yeah, I heard
Um,
that. It's like fill you up for the whole rest of the day type
yeah,
breakfast.
yeah. They do a full English breakfast. I mean, the menu has gone down quite a lot since COVID, but food's still decent. It's a tad on the expensive side, but if you're from London, you probably think it's quite cheap. Um, But yeah, they do a really nice full English. So I like to go up there, have a full English, and then have a wander around. And I usually, if I'm not playing a game there, I'll probably spend about 3 or 4 hours, and most of them will be in the exhibition because I like to leave it a couple of months every time, because you can guarantee every 2 or 3 months they'll put a new exhibit in there. Like I walked in on Tuesday and they had the massive old world exhibit, and I was like, oh. So yeah, it's well worth the visit, and I know that Ash basically lives there, as does Daz Moore. So I'm sure you could twist their arms to go down there, to go up there with them.
Yeah. Do
Um,
you know how much the pints are there, Simon?
I've never had an alcoholic drink there because I'm always driving. I would imagine they'd be under £7. Where do you live that pints are £7, Baron Paint? Stick that in the chat because I'm interested now. Pints around here are usually between £3 and £4. I'd say they were £5, £6. I don't think they're £7. I've never looked though. I know, like a large Pepsi is like £3 because that's all I drink when I'm in there.
Blimey. Okay.
So speaking of going over, being in the States, so how would you find? Oh, Central London. There you go. Yeah, I can imagine it's £7 is quite cheap for a pint in Central London. The first time I was ever charged £5 for a pint, I nearly fell over. I asked for 2 pints, and the barmaid said that's £10. And I looked at her as if she was foreign. I thought, what? What do you mean it's £10 for 2 pints? I only wanted 2 pints. So how do you find living in the States compared to living in the UK?
Um, I love it, dude. I'm not gonna lie, I love it. I did. There's a few things that I miss from being back in the UK: the food and friends and family, and that's really it. I don't miss driving in the UK. I don't miss generally getting around and everybody living on top of each other. I think one of the things that I've got used to, because I know you've spent some time in the States as well, so you can fully understand where I'm coming from. There's so much space. The cost of living over here is a lot cheaper. There is no way that I would be able to afford to even, I would have been seriously struggling to actually buy a house in the UK if I was there. I would have had to move north, or somewhere cheaper outside of the M25 to actually find anywhere that was affordable. So it was kind of, it's something I've had to get used to. Culturally, there's a lot of similarities, dude, between America and the UK. There really is. There's not that much of a difference. There are some slight differences, and there's the novelty. Every American loves the English accent. Oh God, it just drives me nuts. Which is great. It's nice because everybody's like, wow, keep talking to me, yada yada yada, and I'm like sick of it really, with people going, oh my God, I love your accent. Great, okay, thanks, move on. And that's just because I've had it for the last 15 years since I moved here. But the just generally space around you, the quality of the air here in America, as long as you're not in the cities, is lovely. Generally, the pace of life is a little bit slower, in again, depending on where you are. If you're not in the city, and even in some of the cities that I've lived in, the pace of life is a little bit slower than the UK and London. Um, but the thing that I do miss a little bit is public transport. Is the fact that you do need to car around there. There is not anything within walking distance. I do miss being able to like walk down the pub, or those sorts of things, or walk down to get some lunch or some fish and chips or whatever. But as for over here, you need a car to get anywhere because it's just so massive, and a lot of people from the UK don't understand until they start traveling over here how freaking big this country is. It's
Yeah.
like a continent. It's massive. It's mega, and yeah, and I haven't even seen half of it. Alaska, I haven't even been to, and that's a massive chunk of the US. So there's a lot of space over here. But as I said, I do miss the food. But thankfully, Amazon now has really really good British food on call for me to order. And there are the occasional Scottish, British, English shops around that are popping up that have got food that I can grab food from. But yeah, apart from that, but people love to come and visit, dude, and that's the thing, is the fact that I will fly back home to when I still call the UK home because it was for 30, nearly 30 years of my life. But um, uh, but yeah, but people love coming and visiting the States, dude, and it's pretty chill to get people over here.
I think the thing that I found was you're right. They're all like English shops or British shops, and they're all like British theme pubs and Irish theme pubs. And but the price of UK goods in America when I
Oh,
was there anyway
dude. Yeah.
was
Yeah.
astronomical.
Yeah, it is. It's stupid. You pay for the shipping over and everything else, and then import duty and all that sort of stuff. But to get a bottle of Ribena or to get a jar of brown sauce, or whatever, it's worth it to pay an extra quid or whatever just to get it to have it. But
Yeah,
you know,
you're all right about the size of it. I think the first time I ever went was 2007, and my family don't really travel as a whole. I think my mum's been out the UK once. My father's never left the UK.
yeah,
My brother does a bit of traveling, but it's always to holiday destinations like Jamaica, Spain, I think Turkey, Cyprus, that kind of stuff. And the first time I ever went to the States, it was a big deal because no one from our family had ever been to the States before. And I was jet lagged. I think I'd been traveling for 22 hours because I had like a 6 hour layover in Schiphol.
yeah,
Because you can't fly direct from Manchester to Minnesota. You have to fly, you have to get either a connection in Paris or a connection in Schiphol.
yeah,
So I'd been traveling for about 22 hours, and I got there about 5 o'clock in the evening. It was end of November, which is bloody freezing in Minnesota. Don't
yeah,
don't do what I did. Don't travel to Minnesota in the winter because it's a culture shock in itself, in and of itself. And I was in the car, and I wasn't driving, obviously. We were in the car, and we were driving to the house, and we were on the freeway. And my brother just texted me. It must have been about 3 in the morning over there, and he just said, "What's America like?" And I just replied, "Big."
yeah,
that
yeah,
that was my first impression, and it is one of those things where we used to live. It was 2 hour drive to Minneapolis,
yeah,
Minneapolis St. Paul, but that's like just a trip to the city.
yeah,
Whereas we drive 2 hours in the UK for a holiday, it'd be just like we just nip into the city. That 2 hours is a short trip in the States, and I don't think we in the UK appreciate that. And then I did a road trip from Minnesota to Kansas City in Missouri, and that took us about 9 or 10 hours. And I worked out we could have driven from Aberdeen to the south of England in the same time,
yeah.
and all we
We
did was cross 2 states.
Last year we did drove from Texas back up to Wisconsin, and I drove for 15 and a half hours straight in a day, and it was just seen as normal. Like you're just driving from Texas up to Wisconsin. Okay, great. It's a trip, but you can do it in a day. And that was it. And I'm like, wow, I don't think I've ever driven for 15 and a half hours ever. And it was tiring, and I was tired afterwards. But it's not unusual for Americans to do that, which is for me wacky.
Yeah. So, oh yeah, old man making models. The Americans think 100 years is a long time. The British think 100 miles is a long way. That is the truest
Yeah,
thing you could ever say.
yeah,
Yeah. So some of their old buildings, I just go, it's only built in the 19th century. How was that old? I was going to ask you one more thing before I go to St. Celestine question. So you've lived all over the
yeah.
States. You've gone from west to east coast. Where were the friendliest people? I'm going to see if you agree with me. But I'm going
Okay,
to ask you
so
first.
it depends. I've lived in Hawaii for a little bit. People generally over in Hawaii were lovely. When they realised I wasn't American and I had an accent, they were absolutely gorgeous people, and they love it. If you're ever thinking of going to Hawaii as a British person, do it. They will love you to bits with a British accent because they hold, for some weird reason, they hold British people in very, very high regard in Hawaii because their queen, that was the last monarchy of Hawaii, actually went to Oxford or Cambridge, one of the two big, universities in the UK. So they really, really hold the UK in high regard because we actually gave the islands back to Hawaii. Before the Americans bowled up and decided to take it, we actually gave it back because it was too far away for us to remain part of the Commonwealth and the British rule. So Hawaiian people are lovely. People in the Midwest are generally lovely as well. It can get a little bit weird because a lot of people are overly friendly and you're like, please just leave me alone. But they generally are kind of pretty down to earth in the Midwest. Where I am now, I've lived over on the West Coast for probably about just over 10 years of my time. And people over here generally are arseholes. Just, um, it's weird. There's a lot of Californian influence. Road rage is a lot over here. People don't know how to drive on the West Coast. There's a lot of kind of that in general. Not saying everybody on the West Coast is an arsehole because they're, that's just a crazy stereotype. But I've met more stressed, negative people on the West Coast just because of the way of life over here. But in general, it's Midwest is lovely people. My wife's from Midwest, so they're obviously lovely people back there. But Hawaii's nice as well, and people down south. People down south in Florida, Alabama, Georgia are just generally lovely, lovely people. So yeah, there's a few places, but if you stick well out of the cities, you'll find nice people. It's a bit like the UK. The most stressed and arseholey people are normally in the cities. You get out a little bit, and people are a bit more welcoming.
I was going to say Midwest.
Yeah,
I mean, there's a lot of trouble now. I mean, I used to find Minneapolis was a really chilled city as well, because considering it's a big city, people used to say it's like Chicago, but a little bit smaller and more chilled out. But now, apparently, recently they've had a lot of violence and a lot of trouble in Minneapolis. But when I was there, it was such a nice place to be. Everyone was really, really friendly. Which, like you say, being from the UK, and we don't get that so much, especially if you're from the south of the country.
yeah,
Um, it can get a little overwhelming when everybody wants to talk to you. When you go into a shop, and it is the accent thing as well, that does open a lot of doors. When you go into a shop and they ask you how your day's going, you just think it's a pleasantry, then they actually start having a conversation with you. It's a little bit like, I just want to carry on shopping now. Can I leave the shop?
yeah.
Yeah, so it can get a little bit overwhelming. Saint Celestine says, "Do you miss pies?"
I do. Decent pies, I really do. So steak and kidney pies I miss. It's very weird when you go into a butcher's over there and go, have you got any liver, you got any kidneys? And they look at you like, what? Type of thing. And I'm like, yeah, we kind of eat that back in the UK. Lamb isn't a nice lamb mint pie I haven't had in years. There's a few decent pies over here. Depending on where you are in America, like Minnesota's got a lot of German and Scandinavian people, so there's some sort of pies that they have up there that are reasonable. And I'm close enough to like Canada as well. There's a lot of British transplants that have gone into Canada. That some of that culture of like Cornish pasties and stuff like that have stayed around, sort of thing. But obviously they're not proper Cornish pasties because they're not made down in Cornwall. But meat, potatoes, onions type thing in a pie. You can find them. You can find them around now and then. But I do miss decent pies, and I do miss decent fish and chips as well, because you just cannot find it in the US.
Speaking of steak and kidney, yeah, my ex was absolutely appalled when she found out we ate kidneys and liver. She couldn't believe that we did that.
Yeah,
She was, because especially because she was in the medic. She worked in medical. She was part of the Mayo Clinic.
yeah,
So she just, in her head, what the organs are used for in the body, that's all she couldn't get out of her head.
yeah,
She's like, how can you eat stuff that does that? And it's like, well, it's
yeah.
nice. And she would not try it. I tried to get her to try them, and she was having
Yeah,
none of it. There was no
no,
way she was trying them.
no. The weird thing for me was like going to the Midwest. There's a lot of people that have never eaten a shrimp or a prawn in the Midwest. There's not a lot of people that have eaten decent seafood, if you know what I mean, and like
Yeah.
sushi and those sorts of things, because they're so far from the ocean in the Midwest, in Minnesota. They'll have fish from the lake, but they won't have anything from the ocean. So it's like trying to get them to eat an octopus, lobster, anything like that is very, very weird. So that was, for me, was odd. Coming from the UK, it's just standard that, oh yeah, you got some prawns, or, you got a little bit of cod or whatever. There's a lot of people that are like, no, never had it. So I was like, oh, okay.
Although saying that, there's some really good sushi restaurants in Minneapolis.
So
Um,
yeah.
well, there was when I was there anyway. Tiger Sushi just springs to mind. As soon as you said that, I was
Okay.
like, oh, I quite like Tiger
Yeah.
Sushi. St. Celsi says there were none in Florida when she was there.
Oh, great. Well, the good thing about it is that some of the English places, or British, should I say, British places that do food, dry ice them. So I can get stuff sent down in a big dry ice thermal sort of box and chuck it straight in my freezer. So if I really do and can't find it, then I'll end up doing that, or I'll make my own.
Yep, there's that as well. How do you find prices over there for hobby stuff? I know getting quick shop is. I mean, probably there might be an Australian in chat that's going to say that Americans pay nothing compared
Yeah.
to them. It's valid, but how do you find prices for hobby stuff and GW stuff over there?
It's expensive over here. It's more expensive. Obviously, there's a lot of import that I don't get the GW price, and I know there's a little bit of leeway to add into their prices to give them a little bit of fluctuation in currency, but it's a chunk more than what it should be. You know that's it for. And when I'm like buying stuff for people, so when the Lion came out with the Blade Guard and the special box set that came out. It sold out in the UK really, really quickly, and I managed to grab one in Minneapolis actually when I was there. And Ryan Paint Party Scott was looking for one. I said, "Look, I can grab one for you." And I said, "It's going to be this amount." He was like, "Really? Compared to what it was in the UK, that's expensive." I'm like, "Well, they add import taxes, and then there's transport tax, costs and all that sort of stuff. So we don't pay. It's not as cheap as the UK by far." And obviously it's still expensive in the UK, so it's a little bit more expensive over here in the States. But it's just you get accustomed to it. It is what it is, and if you want to do the hobby, it is. But I think that's one of the reasons why in Australia and America, the 3D printing part of the hobby is gone phenomenally, through the roof because you look at 3D printing costs of stuff and it's cheap as chips compared to what GW are charging. So, but it is what it is.
I guess as well that would mean that if you did come to Warhammer World, you would probably fill your boots because it would still be cheaper than in the States.
That would be my excuse, yes. But trying to get that past my wife may be an issue. So we'll see.
Well,
I'll
I think
have
that's the
to.
track you should go down. I mean, I walk around Warhammer World and go, how much?
Yeah.
Incidentally, I noticed that last time that when I went on Tuesday, the tickets prices for the exhibition were up by £1. Don't know
Okay. So how
why.
much? How much are they now to go around the exhibition?
It's £8.50. It used to be so.
Okay.
It was £7.50 last time I went, and that was only January. I think the lowest I've ever gone in there for was about £7. So it
Okay.
hasn't gone up loads, but I just thought, well, what's happened between January and April that it's now £8.50? Don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
We did have a question before when the stream that couldn't get going. I can't remember who asked it, so I apologise if it's still in chat. And they said, "What is your favourite army?"
Favorite army. I have always been and will, I believe, always be a big Orc fan. I just love, again, going back to it, character for me helps immerse me with the universe. So I like, if they're, and it's going to sound crazy because everybody knows, like a lot of people give me shit for painting Ultramarines. And honestly, the only reason why I got into Ultramarines to start with was my son likes blue Space Marine dreadnoughts and was like, I really want a blue Space Marine dreadnought. So I painted up one. He loved it, and I was like, okay, let's just generate and pump out a blue Space Marine army for him. Done, dusted. Their fluff doesn't appeal to me that much, but it's like they're the poster boys of Warhammer. Orcs do appeal to me. I love the fact that they've got an accent from down in London. They're like, "What, mate?" Sort of thing. So I love that about the orcs. So again, I can identify with them a lot. But I just love the quirky, crazy, brains that the whole fluff behind orcs and how they make things work and all the different like hierarchy in orc society. So and that goes from 40k into fantasy as well. Like fantasy, I love orcs and goblins more on the night goblin side of Warhammer Fantasy, but the orcs themselves is one of those that I just have always been attracted to and probably always will do because I love it.
Al Child says Goldman just had a heart attack.
Yep, there you go. Thanks, Tom. Much appreciated. But oh, yeah, and JT says, yeah, orc scaffolds are great. So I'll tell you a story. I'm kind of kit bashing an orc like wagon, battle wagon, and have been for a while. And I was on a live stream messing around with a turret and got a turret all sorted out for them, kit bashed out of like an orc defiler body and all that sort of stuff. And I said to the guys on the stream, I was like, "What do you think I should do? Do you think I should kind of put it on a mount it on some sort of like, you know, the turret on a structure, or do you think I should put it onto some scaffolding?" And they were like, "Scaffolding, scaffolding sounds great. Do it, do it. It sounds really orky." And I had like two kind of measurements of scaffold, and the guys picked obviously the largest one, so it looked totally oversized and crazy. Yeah, exactly. JT says scaffold, no other choice. Yeah, thanks, JT. But yeah, so I just ran with it, and now again, once I get all settled and sorted, that will be another crazy kit bash for my orc armies, trying to do a big orc battle wagon with a massive great turret on some scaffolding, going as high as possible. So yeah.
So Gorkamort give you praise to Del Child. JT says it's because we love you,
Yeah,
Sam.
yeah. Thank you,
And
Sam.
then Cricket Snowman says, we need an army with a Boston accent. I can't get Family Guy in 10, the movie Ted, out of my head when I think about a Boston accent.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know how that would work. Before we wrap up, I did want to ask you about how you get these famous people on your interviews. I mean, you've done quite a few interviews, not just on here, on your YouTube as well, when you were at Adepticon and stuff. How have you got all these connections?
So honestly, everybody in the hobby is lovely. All you got to do mostly is ask them and just talk to them. And you know, like Duncan and Roger from Two Tin Coats were so good, so nice. I literally stumbled upon them in Vegas LVO a couple of years ago, and I just went up to them. And a lot of people are like, "Oh my God, it's Duncan!" And I'm like, "What's happening, Duncan? How you doing?" And we started talking, and I talked to Roger probably in for hours. I sat down with him and had a coffee with Roger, who is the kind of guy behind Duncan that also worked at Games Workshop. And again, if you could get him on to interview him, Simon, the stories that guy has got from behind the scenes of kind of working with Duncan and the whole Games Workshop, setting all of the video department up and all that sort of stuff, it's fascinating. Really lovely guy as well. He's a South African guy that moved up to the UK and worked for Games Workshop. Just generally heart of gold, really, really lovely guy. And you kind of then work out why Roger and Duncan work well with each other, because they're generally lovely, lovely people, and they're very easygoing and chilled out. But yeah, so I went up to them and had a chat with them. But if you've got like, I wouldn't say gumption, but if you've just got the confidence to go up to people, I'm not fazed by anybody in the hobby, because I know they're just nerds like me. You know, everybody in the hobby is just a geeky nerd, and we love playing with our little plastic dollies on a blooming table and moving them around and going pew pew in our head. You know, that's really where we're at. So going up to all these guys and the painters and talking to them, honestly, just go up and start chatting to them and say hey, and everybody will be like it, really enjoy it. And that's really where I've been at. And obviously there's been other people that are more on the kind of painting side of things, which I think have been more receptive, because I love painting. My enthusiasm for painting and that side of the hobby is kind of, I hope it's quite apparent when you kind of talk to me, that that's really the side of the hobby that I love doing, the fluff and the painting more than the gaming. But yeah, and when I start talking to some of the guys in the hobby about painting and how long I've been doing it, and they realise that we were from the age of White Dwarf and trying to replicate stuff straight out of White Dwarf, and we were painting with Humbrol paints and thinners and getting high and really, you know, ruining our brains of an early age doing it. They can kind of appreciate that, and where we've come from as older painters. But yeah. I'm that obvious dude. I really just It's more than apparent. It's Sam. Thanks, Leslie. Bless you. But yeah, you know, and that's really where I'm at with them. Is just having the confidence to go up and say, "Hey, can I have a chat? I'd love to ask you some questions about painting, about the hobby." Peachy, you know, when I contacted Peachy, he's another one. As I said, I've yet to meet anybody from Games Workshop that worked at Games Workshop, especially those two, that aren't really receptive to talking to anybody. Peachy as bless him, has got time for everybody, and I really respect that because you know he's alongside Duncan as a face of Games Workshop that people know. And a lot of people have grown up with him and having him as a face of their hobby. So being able to actually sit down and chat with him, I've got to drink whiskey with like next time when I actually see Peachy, I will get a couple of drams of whiskey and we will you know, sort of probably chat the evening away and you know all that good stuff. But yeah, talk to people, just message them, chat to them, tell them what you're about, what you're doing. And you'll be able to get at least a message. A lot of people are polite enough to at least respond and message back and say, hey, you know.
I think talking of Peachy, obviously I've interviewed Peachy twice now. Now Peachy is one of those people that I mean, I've never met him in real life, but he is going to the UK Games Expo. So as soon, I don't know whether to go on the Saturday, Sunday at the moment. Neither does he. So I'm hoping to go at the same time as him,
Yeah.
and then we'll take a photograph and send it to you if I was having a drink.
Oh,
Anyway, the one thing I liked about Peachy is, like you say, he's got time for everybody. And when we interviewed him the first time on the Inquisition, he stayed in touch. Not like big pals or anything, but we did message each other occasionally. We'd like each other's stuff, etc., etc. And when I said I was going out on my own and asked him if he would like to be the first guest, his first reply was, "You don't even need to ask, I'm in."
yeah.
And you know, he's just a really nice guy. And I think you are right. I think what people need to remember is outside of the hobby, no one knows who they are.
Yeah.
So you know, Duncan Rhodes might be a big deal to us, but outside of this little hobby that we're in, people don't really know who they are. They're not like mega famous, so they haven't got the egos that go with being mega famous.
Yeah.
The only time I've ever been starstruck is when I went Winters, because Winters is someone I've been watching for years, and I went to March at Winters. And Winters is lovely, and you've interviewed him, you know what he's like. He goes off on massive tangents. Um, and he'd never seen me in his life before, and he just walked up to me because I got there quite early, and he was setting up, and he just started having a conversation with me. And in my head, I'm thinking, "This is Winters. This is Winters," and
Yeah.
that's the only time I've ever been starstruck. But what I liked about Winters is I mean, March Winter, I think there must have been about 50 odd people there, and he made an effort to talk to every single person that was there.
Yeah.
And you've got to appreciate that. And I do appreciate how down to earth everybody is. Joe Poynton as well, Beard from
Yeah.
Tabletop Tactics. Really nice guy. Again, I asked him to come on the Inquisition, and he just said yes straight away. He was honoured to be on, and you're just like, oh, really? And when I met him, I have met Joe as well, and he's lovely. I haven't met anyone as lovely, to
Yeah.
be honest. You are right. It's just, I think for a lot of people, it's trying to find get into their schedules. Like Liam Dempsey said he'd come on, but he streams 7 times a week, so it's just finding a time to do it. I've told him we'll probably wait till we're all set up on YouTube and we'll just record one
Yeah.
because he sort of streams at a similar time than me. So we'll just do an early one and record it, get it in the bag, and then
Yeah.
we'll stick it straight on YouTube.
I think one of the things that I like is the fact that obviously your hobby heroes, it sounds like, are more on the gaming side. So you've got Winters that loves his bat reps. You've got Liam who loves his bat reps, all those sorts of guys. Some of those guys I don't even know. You know, Winters I've known because I've seen a couple of his videos with some of the other scally lads that he hangs around with that he does bat reps. That it was kind of hilarious and funny. And he had a character that I thought, you know what? I'd love to get him on and have a chat. And I'd literally message him and he goes, dude, love the painting side of things you got done. Let's have a chat about 40K and everything else. So a lot of these guys are receptive, but it's just trying to find what, like, it's going to sound weird, but what turns you on in the hobby, whether it's the gaming side of things, which sounds like you do, the painting side of things, I love. So I would probably get a little bit more, not, I wouldn't say starstruck, but I would love to interview more of the top level painters. I want to try and get Sergio Calvo to come on and have a chat. And Sergio wanted to meet me for a coffee beforehand to have a chat about it and make sure his English was good enough. And I'm like, dude, your English is fine. But there are other painters that I would love to get on and talk to and kind of just go through and find out really more about them, because everybody loves talking about themselves, Simon. So, you know, getting these people on to talk about themselves is not normally a problem. It's the folks that are socially really awkward that are like, no, I don't really like doing any of that. That's an issue. And there are some people that are like that, but you know, people like me, you, and a lot of the guys that were fine having been in front of a camera for Games Workshop are all good, you know. So there's I'm just reading some of the comments and it's
Yeah,
getting
I
a
was
bit
just
out of hand.
catching up. I was going to read some out in a minute.
But yeah, so you know, the painting, the hobbying, that's the two main sides of the hobby, and it's just finding out and talking to people about, you know,
There are some painters I want to get on, just because some really good painters just really want to know how, you know, things like how they, you know, where the inspiration comes from, how they got so good, etc., etc. There are a few painters I'm trying to get in on.
yeah,
Yeah, you are right. I do play more than I mean, I paint to play. I've painted hundreds and hundreds of miniatures in my time, probably thousands, but I do paint to play. I have
yeah.
got better as I've got older, but I do still look at really good painters and go, I don't know how you did that. So there are some painters I do want to get on. So Flavio Drago Minis, there's many such kind people in the hobby world. Take Sam from Warpgate Studios as a great example of that.
Oh, bless
And
you.
then Ryan's in the chat. So straight away, I love this, like a tip to the Warhammer Veteran Society Jam and Crumpet event. Thank you, Ryan. Love
Yeah.
you.
Hmm.
Finally, Sam, the convo gets interesting. Oh, right, cheers. You've only just come in. You've only been in like 5 minutes.
Good old Ryan, lovely. Yeah,
So
lovely.
I'm aware that you've probably got work soon, because I know you're self-employed, but you know you've got to earn money to get over here and pay those Warhammer World prices. So just before we wrap everything up, what's going on with Warpgate Studios? What is in the future?
I've got to try and do some more YouTube videos. I haven't really put anything on YouTube in a few months because just everything's been a bit crazy and I've not really had time to. So I want to try and get a few more vids on YouTube for just some different products that I've been working with and using, and do some reviews and stuff like that. Honestly, not that much. My main goal is to get moved and settled into an area that I'm going to stay at for the foreseeable future. So it's been difficult, you know, when you're trying a hobby and you know that you're not going to be there for long, you can't really get your hobby out. So you're constantly just having it in boxes and you're just, you know, trying to get a little bit here and there and everywhere. But as you know, our hobby, the Games Workshop pumps out so many models, you end up buying more. You know, because you're like, well, I'll add that to the collection and I'll add that to the collection, so I don't want to miss out on it. So you end up getting a little bit more. But my main goal for the rest of this year is to get sorted, get the house work good enough, get an office space that I can set up for my 9 to 5 work, and also put some of my painting stuff in there. But yeah, really, my main year goal was to try and get to Vegas and try and get to Adepticon. Neither of those happened. So maybe I'll say, you know, hopefully I can get back to the UK this year and try and meet up with as many folks as I can, or pop in and see some folks while I'm there. And if I do, it's probably going to be July or August time that I'm back over there, because I got to get the house sorted out. But yeah, really, apart from that, it's just trying to get my painting, get more painting done. I want to try and work on photography of my miniatures, because that's something that I'm lacking in at the moment, is a proper photo booth style stuff that I can get stuff set up with. And I really want to try and get that dialed in, because I think that's one of the things that I can do. Is I've got like my photos and my models on my phone are okay, you know, I don't feel they're doing them justice.
Mhm.
And I feel like to take it to the next level, I've got to get something fully set up that it can showcase off the minis as much as possible. Fucking Ryan, I'm just looking at um, but yeah, just trying to showcase them off, work a little bit on the photography. But that's really my own little goals, and just try and keep painting. You know, that's the thing. Try and knock out as much as I possibly can between now and the end of the year, and maybe some new projects, but I don't know. We'll see. What about you? What's your plan, Simon?
Well, as far as this, I guess you call it a channel, it is on YouTube. This podcast goes. I'm just trying to get to 100 subscribers on YouTube at the moment, which is proving a little bit more difficult than I thought. I think I'm on 82 at the minute. I've got a couple of guest lines up that I've announced. I've got Steve Box from Vanguard Tactics. He is on in 2 weeks, and then I've got Maxine also plays 40k in the next month.
Okay.
Again, like gaming side of things, but I just I am approaching various people to try and get them on. I'm trying to get a good mix on, not just names, as it were. I want to get some people on who are just interesting to talk to. Really, I think everyone's got a story at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the main goal. I'm going to try and get some proper camera equipment so I aren't relying on my phone all the time. And then I want to move everything over to YouTube eventually. So I'm just streaming on there, get a proper setup. But I'm not very technically minded. Scum like me mixed in, we appreciate it, Simon. Yeah, well, I have asked Ryan to come on. Yeah.
Wow. If he does come
So,
on, just let me know so I can give him as much abuse as possible. Like
so it will be in
today.
that. I announced everything in advance because the whole point of this stream is I like the chat to do a lot of the interviewing. The one thing that's in previous streams and when I watch people's streams as well, I don't like it when chat gets ignored because if chat on there, you're talking to yourself.
Yeah.
So I try and get chat. What I wanted to do different in this podcast, this stream, as it were, was get chat more involved, which I ask for questions and I encourage questions in the chat because that's what keeps us going. If you look at really popular live streams like Valbrack, for instance, he's just interacting with his chat all the time, and I think that's what you do because that makes it fun for everybody. And I really enjoy it because you don't know what's happening. You've not got a clue what they're going to ask. You don't know a clue what they're going to say, and you just have to wing it. So that's as far as this goes. As far as gaming and things and painting, I'm in the middle of World Eaters. I'm going to play a game against Ash One World in June. I think it's June the 6th, top of my head. Here's Black Legion against my World Eaters. So I need to paint a 2,000 point list, which I'm about 4 models off now.
Cool.
And then I'm taking World Eaters to March of Winters as well, which for some reason, I know the reason, it's Winters, is 1,111 points. So that's going to be interesting trying to make a list that big. And then I've ordered the Custodians Battle Box, which will be coming to the page when I get round to it. And then the Custodians rules came out and they're not very good that I've seen so far. So I was like, great, that's 130 quid I've just wasted.
Hey, the orc stuff looks pretty interesting and fun, so I'm kind of looking forward to that.
Yeah, I've got the Orc Codex in order. I've ordered the Orc Codex because what happens with pre-orders is I don't bother queuing with pre-orders. Name dropping Boltstorm Wargaming again. I just message Ant on the preview day and he orders it for me on the Monday, and so I don't have to get in a queue and wait. He just gets it into the shop.
Nice.
So yeah, that's what I've got planned in the future. So other than your Instagram page, and probably most people know, where else can they find you on the socials?
YouTube and Instagram are the only two that I've got. I've got a Threads account, but I never use it. So it's just YouTube and Instagram. Instagram's my main thing. So if anybody needs to get hold of me, Instagram's good to go. But YouTube, I'm there. I thankfully got up to. I think I've been on there a couple of years now on YouTube, and I've got about 1,100 subscribers on my YouTube channel, which is phenomenal. But I've really not put a lot of effort into YouTube. It's just I just chuck videos on there how to use and how-to videos and those sorts of things. So I try and do it a little bit different that's not already out there at the moment with guides and those sorts of things. So yeah, it's YouTube and Instagram is where you can find me. Okay.
Well, thanks for joining me. Thanks for coming on. First transatlantic guest. Wonders of technology means I haven't seen you all stream, but I will see you on playback. Thanks again for coming, Sam.
No,
thank you everybody for joining all the questions, and I'll see you again next time.
Thanks, Simon.
Bye-bye.
Cheers, bye.